Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. This is the Rules Committee. We have a quorum with Councilman Good, Councilwoman Bass, Councilman Squilla, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, and myself, Bill Greenlee. Ms. Marconi, will you please read the title of the first bill before us today?
Bill number 150264, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising and clarifying certain provisions and making technical changes all under certain terms and conditions.
Good morning, Mr. Gregorski.
Good morning.
We're going to start off with an easy one here, sir.
Good morning. Marty Gregorski. Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm the Division Director of the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 150264, which was introduced in the City Council on April 9th, 2015 by Councilmember Greenlee. Bill number 150264 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by making technical and clarifying changes. Changes are made to 21 subsections of the zoning code by clarifying rules of measurement, definitions, procedures, making text edits, and clarifying some ambiguous text. An example of a text edit is replacing all instances of the word he with he or she and changing the words gasoline fueling station to vehicle fueling station. Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 150264 at its meeting of April 28, 2015, and recommended approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. And just for the record, we made sure this time these really were technical amendments, because I remember a while back we had a technical amendment bill that turned out to be a lot less technical. But this, I think, really fits that category. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on Bill number 150264? Seeing none. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 150239, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Germantown Avenue, Schoolhouse Lane, Green Street, and Armont Street.
Mr. Gregorski, before you start, just for the record, on that first bill, there will be an amendment submitted at the meeting. Please.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director of the Development Division of the City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 150239, which was introduced in the City Council on March 26, 2015 by Councilmember Bass. Bill number 150239 rezones portion of a block bounded by Germantown Avenue, Schoolhouse Lane, and Armont Street in central Germantown in the Upper Northwest Planning District of Philadelphia. The bill was drafted to support the construction of a new multi-purpose building and the reorganization of outdoor space at the Green Street Friends School, according to the recommendations of the school's recently prepared conceptual campus plan. A new CMX3 commercial mixed-use district is proposed for the portion of the block containing the campus, which includes school buildings, the meeting house, a recently acquired bank building at the corner of Germantown Avenue and Schoolhouse Lane, and accessory parking. CMX3 is proposed because it offers enough flexibility to the school to permit the proposed expansion, which will strengthen the longtime neighborhood institution. The City Planning Commission at its meeting of April 28, 2015, recommended Bill number 150239 for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to the other witnesses, any questions for Mr. Gregorski? Seeing none, thank you. Since you're already there, why don't you identify yourself for the record and proceed, please.
Good morning. My name is Edward Marshall, and I'm the head of Green...
A little closer, microphone.
Good morning. My name is Edward Marshall, and I'm the head of Green Street Friends School.
Morning.
We are an elementary and middle school of 300 students in central Germantown. We were founded in 1855, 7 years before the Civil War, and we have operated there continuously since. We've been here 160 years, and we plan to keep our roots in Germantown. We're a Quaker school. As you might expect in a Quaker environment, there's no fighting. But also, because we believe there is that of God in every person, our goal is to give equal access to the youth of our city. We operate a campus that is open to the Germantown community when our program is not running. Our tuition and financial aid come to $12,000 to $14,000 per year per student, which is similar to the cost of public education in the city. Just about all of our students live in Philadelphia. Our students graduate and attend the top public and private magnet high schools in our city. We carry no debt. Because we have a strong program and tuition is about half that of the larger private schools, we are finding high demand for our school. And over the past 20 years, we've nearly doubled in size, both in enrollment and in acreage. To accommodate our growth, we are planning a community building that will house a multipurpose gym, auditorium, and classrooms. We own something like 10 parcels of land, which are either zoned RSA 2 or CMX 2.5. Neither of these designations permit educational use. Each time we have a project, the planning and the permitting requires much staff time and the commitment of scarce school resources. So a couple years ago, we discussed our plans with the City Planning Commission staff, and they recommended that we change our zoning to the most basic designation that would allow for a school, which is CMX 3. We've gone forward with the suggestion, and that's why we're here today. Our school wants to be a good neighbor and a responsible member of our community. We deeply value Germantown's historic character and are always looking to protect our heritage and upgrade our spaces. All but one of our buildings are historically listed on the city's registry. We love them and have no plans to take any of them down. We've developed a master plan of the campus, and this zoning change will greatly facilitate the improvement that we will be implementing today. With me today are Julie Baranauskas, who is the president of Penn Knox Neighbors Association, Betty Turner, who is the president of Germantown Community Connection, Jamie Unkefer of Digsall, who is our architect, and Terry Buda, our business manager. We're happy to elaborate on this and answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Are other people testifying too, or no? Or just here to answer questions?
I think.
Okay, all right. And before anybody else does, just for the record, Councilman O'Brien and Councilman Heenan, members of the committee, are present. So whoever else like to say something, please.
Can I?
Yeah.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee.
Good morning.
And members of the Rules Committee. My name is Betty Turner. I have been a resident of Germantown for 54 years. I am a retired educator, co-founder of Germantown Community Connection, a board member of Green Street Friends School, and a grandparent of 2 children at this school, one in 6th grade and the other in the 2nd grade. I am here today in support of the Green Street Friends School. I believe strongly in the importance of this school in our community, and it is for this reason that I'm here. Green Street is a good neighbor with an evidence-based commitment to learning and good citizenship. It's the kind of education that educates mind, body, and spirit. The administration and staff are devoted to the students' learning and development, as well as building a conducive, safe, and sustainable environment. Actually, GSFS is a viable part of the fabric of our community and owns the land already. So this is really just a matter of a zoning change. I hope you will support a zoning change for the school. It means a lot for the school to have more flexibility with their property rather than go through the zoning structure each time they are making a change. The school plans to expand to meet the needs for a multi-purpose community space and more classrooms. Currently, there is no space for the full school to gather indoors. This ordinance will allow GSFS more space to give the students the full range of opportunities they want and need, as well as supplement the community space in our neighborhood. The approval of this zoning change is vitally important to meeting both the current and future demands and interests of students and family. It definitely will allow Green Street Friends to continue to provide valuable educational service and as a tangible and visible commitment to our community, to its diversity, to its growth, its social and economic development, and to maintaining a reasonable tuition. So please support the zoning change, Bill 150239, for Green Street Friends, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Is anyone else want to say anything? Okay. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Good morning, Council. My name is Julie Baranowskis. I am representing the Penn Knox Neighborhood Association, the community group, the RCO, that Green Street Friends School is a member of. Green Street has always been a good neighbor. We discussed this at a prior community meeting, and it was one of the very few things that we were in unanimous agreement. This change makes sense, and this change will make everyone's life easier. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to say anything? No? Any questions or comments? Councilwoman Bass?
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment and thank everyone for coming down today for this very important hearing, and Mr. Marshall, for all of your hard work as we prepare to do some of the work that needs to be done in advance, preparing for the future of Green Street. This is obviously the logical next step. So I just wanted to say that I'm very excited to be able to support this effort. And I know that you worked hard to make sure that we have community support, which is the Green Street Friends way. So I just wanted to again say thank you so much to you and to Ms. Turner and of course Ms. Baranowskis and everyone else who came down from Germantown today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions or comments? Anyone else here to testify on Bill 150239? Seeing none, thank you all very much. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Ms. Marconi on next bill, please.
Bill number 140519, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending Section 14-502 to further provide for requirements within the Center City Overlay District and to make technical changes all under certain terms and conditions.
Mr. Gregorski.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director of the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 140519, which was introduced in the City Council on June 5th, 2014 by Councilmember Squilla. Bill number 140519 amends Section 14-502 of the Zoning Code, which is the Center City Overlay. The bill created two new control areas, the Center City Commercial District Control Area and the Center City Residential District Control Area. The Center City Commercial District Control Area will include the area bounded by both sides of Spring Garden Street Extended, the Delaware River, both sides of South Street Extended, and the Schuylkill River. In this area, lot zones CMX2, neighborhood commercial mixed use, that have frontage on at least 3 streets, 2 of which must be 50 feet wide, will be permitted a maximum height of 55 feet rather than the basic 38 feet. Additionally, within this area, lot zone CMX3, community commercial mixed use, shall be eligible for a floor area ratio, FAR, bonuses, provided that lots have frontage on at least 2 50 feet wide streets or 3 20 feet wide streets. These bonuses must be for mixed income housing or green building and may add an additional 250% to the base FAR of 500%. Lot zone CMX4, Center City Commercial Mixed Use, when located within both Center City Commercial District Control Area and the Center City University City Floor Area Ratio Area, may have a maximum FAR of 750%, up from the base of 500%. These lots will also be eligible for a bonus FAR of 450%, provided that the lots have frontage on 2 50 feet wide streets or 3 20 feet wide streets. The Center City Residential District Control Area will include the area bounded by both sides of Spring Garden Street Extended, the Delaware River, the north side of Washington Avenue Extended, and the Schuylkill River. In this area, lot zoned RSA 5, Residential Single Family Attached, or RM1, Residential Multifamily, may have a minimum lot size of 1,080 square feet, down from the current requirement of 1,440 square feet. Additionally, lots zoned RM1 that contain at least 1,600 square feet of land may be divided into 2 lots with a minimum lot size of 800 square feet, provided that at least 75% of the lots adjacent to the lot to be divided are 1,000 square feet or less, and each of the new lots meets the minimum lot width requirement of 16 feet. The City Planning Commission will hear Bill number 14519 at its meeting of June 9th, 2015, with a staff recommendation for approval as amended. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. Councilman Squill.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. During this, obviously, there's a lot of amendments that were changed from the original bill, and working with Councilman Johnson's office, Councilman Clark's office, to try to come up with a best way to have some as-of-right use with additional FAR for CMX3 and 4. Do you believe that this fits in the, I guess, the mold of having enough information so that people could build as of right, but also if they need to build more, using the bonus system to go there, better gives the community a better chance to add more amenities to that area than just as of right?
We believe so, yes.
The bonuses for CMX3, are they something new added just in that Center City district, correct?
There is a bonus for CMX3 now in transit-oriented development districts, none of which are mapped. So this would be new in the Center City district.
So long as they're able to reach some bonuses, they would then be able to get additional FAR?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I know we met also with Center City residents on this and some of the other community groups that had some concerns. We believe we met all their concerns on this matter. Do you know of any other serious concerns that they had with this bill up to this point?
No.
No. And during your planning commission, June 9th, the recommendation will be to approve this with amendments?
Correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Gorski, thank you. Ms. Marconi, who else we have?
Ann Fedulin.
And after Ms. Fedulin and Ms. Vidas, is there anyone else here on this bill? Okay, thank you. Please.
Hi, my name is Ann Fedulin. I'm president of the Building Industry Association, which represents the region's residential home builders, residential contractors, and suppliers. I'd like to thank Chairman Greeley and the members of the Rule Committee for allowing us to testify on Bill number 140519, and we thank Councilman Squilla for introducing this legislation on the BIA's behalf, and also the work that Councilman Johnson and Council President Clark have put into this bill as well. I just want to mention briefly, you heard that this bill was originally introduced in June of 2014, and we're now in June of 2015 because we've had several meetings with the Planning Commission, several meetings with the various council offices and also the community groups to make sure that we had a bill that worked as best as possible for everybody. Philadelphia is a large city with a vibrant urban core and is second in the country in terms of center city residential population. Although the new zoning code adopted a few years ago was a positive step in fostering the economic growth of our city, 2+ years of experience with the new code has resulted in the realization that with some reasonable adjustments, the code could do even more to foster the growth so important to our city. After meeting with all of the stakeholders, we have asked Councilman Squilla to consider a number of amendments to the bill we originally asked him to introduce. Under these proposed amendments, Bill number 140519 makes only one change to residential zoning, changing the maximum lot size from 1,440 square feet to 1,080 square feet. This provides for a house structure of 18 by 50 feet with a 10-foot rear yard, a very substantial and reasonably sized home within the urban core. This would essentially result in a home between 2,400 and 2,700 square feet. It should be noted that the BIA originally advocated for an 800 square foot lot, and then after conferring with council members and the Planning Commission, that was amended to 960 square feet, and after meeting with several community organizations, a compromise was reached at the eventual 1,080 square feet. The proposed changes to the various commercial zoning districts include a provision to allow capstone buildings where several large streets converge, the ability to use the bonuses currently provided in the code in the CMX3 district, allowing for an increase in FAR and CMX4 along the Central Market Corridor, and allowing for increased density of residential units above neighborhood commercial properties. All of these commercial zoning changes will help to promote mixed-use development in Philadelphia's urban core and provide for the density required to facilitate both employment and population growth in our city. Bill number 140519 incorporates several common-sense changes to the new code, and so we ask the Rules Committee to amend and approve the bill and support its passage through council. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Vios?
My name is Lauren Vitas. I'm here as chair of the South of South Neighborhood Association, which is one of the neighborhoods affected by the bill. I know you guys have a long agenda today, so I'm not going to go too much into detail, but just wanted to echo Ann's sentiments about the process to date. Our neighborhood had a number of concerns initially with the bill as written, and I want to commend Councilman Squilla's office, Councilman Johnson's office, and the BIA for sitting down with us and sort of working through a number of those issues. We are in support of the bill. We believe that the density it's going to bring, especially along our commercial corridors, is going to have a tremendous impact both on the economy of our neighborhood as well as the quality of life. So,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
Good morning, ladies. Just by way of record, provide context on what was the trigger, what was the initiator for this action.
Frankly, the BIA went to Councilman Squilla and said, we'd like to see some changes made in the zoning code. We had potential, or actually a substantial number of our members come forth and say that they were dealing with the same issues over and over and over again at ZBA and variance requirements. So we sort of put a list of those together, and then we drafted the original bill, and then as we spoke, we met with the various council people of their districts most affected by the bill, and then with the various community organizations, and also we met with the Planning Commission about 3 or 4 times to figure out what compromise and what on that list kind of works so that it would be the best thing for everybody.
So just cite one example, Lauren, on the common ground that you found as a result of a year's worth of work.
right. So a good example is the South Street West corridor, which is zoned for relatively, it's the zoning and the current map there is just, it's outdated and it's old. And it's a corridor that can support a lot of density and should, because it's a burgeoning retail area. So you want to be able to have folks, you want people living above retail shops to provide that sort of, so it provides a customer base, it's a walkable neighborhood. Density, we should be encouraging density along those corridors. And as a neighborhood association, I think we like getting as many things out of the ZBA as possible because we're a volunteer organization. And when you have folks who are staying up every month till midnight at zoning hearings that we're holding to go to the ZBA on a variance that we see 3 or 4 times a month, when it's a simple fix and we're supporting the variance every single time, this is as much about making it easier, I think, on the developers in the community, but also it really takes some of the pressure off the RCOs that are continually supporting variances for the same issues over and over again.
I see. Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much.
And just, Councilwoman, an example is what I gave in my testimony, where we started out wanting a residential lot of 800 square feet in size. And then through talking with the council people, we went to 960 square feet. And then talking with the community, we ended up at 1,080 square feet. That's a perfect example, is the kind of compromise we went through, and also working with the Planning Commission as well.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Squilla?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Fadul, on the community meetings, how many meetings did you have altogether? Because I know I was involved in several of them. I just want to know.
I know that I met once with the Crosstown Coalition by myself. I met then I think we had 2 meetings that had council people there as well as the Crosstown Coalition. I had separate meetings with you and with Kenyatta Johnson and also Council President Clark. I think I had 3 meetings with the Planning Commission, and then I think we've had a couple meetings with Sosna and Southwest Center City. So maybe 7 or 8 altogether.
Okay. Now, I know there was, do you know how many amendments from your initial bill changes? It was quite a few.
I think we've amended this bill about 5 or 6 times, and we now almost have a completely different bill.
Completely different bill.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good sign of being willing to work. Not that we're going to please everybody, but hopefully by having input from all parties concerned, that we can make this bill the best possible bill, and so therefore not have to change it again in the future. But hopefully we'll be able to move forward with this and see how we go from there. So thank you for your time, effort, and hopefully a positive result with this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just note for the record, that was a lot of amendments, but it's not the 40 amendments from sick leave, so. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, again, anyone else here testifying on bill number 140519? Seeing none. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 150285, an ordinance amending section 14-517 of the Philadelphia Code entitled UED Urban Experiential Display Overlay Control District to provide for further regulations regarding urban experiential displays under certain terms and conditions.
Mr. Gregorski.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, member of the Rules Committee. Marty Gregorski, Director of the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on bill number 150285, which was introduced in the City Council on April 9th, 2015 by Councilmember Squilla. Bill number 150285 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code section entitled UED Urban Experiential Display Overlay Control Districts to provide for further regulations regarding UED installations. Bill number 150285 also clarifies the roles of the City Planning Commission, the Civic Design Review Committee, the Art Commission, and the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation in regard to UED installations. The amendments include the following. Number one, no zoning permits for urban experiential displays shall be issued unless the applicant shall first submit it to the City Planning Commission, and the City Planning Commission, after receipt of a recommendation from the Civic Design Review Committee, shall have A, submitted a recommendation to the Art Commission regarding the proposed design and placement of the UED. The City Planning Commission's recommendation shall reflect the Commission's judgment as to whether the particular proposal is appropriate in its scale, density, character, and use for the surrounding community. And B, approved an executed agreement between the applicant and a government entity to provide for a financial contribution by the applicant to the governmental entity. 2, no UED may be erected or maintained without Art Commission approval. 3, no UED may be erected or maintained unless the applicant receives clearance from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. If PennDOT does not have jurisdiction, the applicant needs clearance from the Department of Streets. The City Planning Commission, at its meeting of April 28, 2015, recommended bill number 150285 for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. Councilman Squilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification purposes, has the zoning permits for urban spirit display shall not be issued unless the applicant shall have submitted to the City Planning Commission and the Planning Commission after receipt of a recommendation from the Civic Design Review. That is basically what was in the previous bill, correct?
It's very similar, yes.
Right. And then the basic change to this here is that the Planning Commission gets to make recommendations, shall reflect the Commission's judgment on specific categories, which are scale, density, character, and use for surrounding community.
Correct.
Now, what is the difference between that and the original bill? Do you know?
I don't think the original bill had the categories, and this recommendation then goes to the Art Commission.
So, all right, so the added part is that the Planning Commission gets specific categories to make recommendations on.
Correct.
To then forward to the Art Commission for approval.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm not sure this is your expertise, but my next question, approved and executed agreement between the applicant and the government entity to provide for financial contribution by the applicant. There seems to be some confusion on how that will work. I don't think we have an answer to date on that. Are you familiar with that part of this legislation?
In that, I agree that I don't believe that it's been fully fleshed out yet, and it's going to need to be before any permits are pursued.
Okay, because I think what we're going to end up doing is actually getting out of committee and then holding it until we could get an answer from the administration on how this works. This was one of the major concerns of the administration during the time, and I think they need to figure out how it would work or whether we have to amend it out at that point. And the third one was that if PennDOT, that had approval powers in the first bill, would be amended that if for some reason they do not have jurisdiction, the applicant needs clearance from the Streets Department.
Correct.
Correct? So they are the main three aspects of the changes to this bill.
That's correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. If I could just ask you, Councilman Squilla, my understanding was, and I know how much you worked on this whole issue for many months, this bill was actually at the request of the administration, correct?
Yes, it was a compromise by us and the developer and the community groups, nonprofits, to make these amendments, but I don't think it was thought out all the way. And I think maybe, Marty, could you explain just what they need to find out on how this government entity works with money?
Well, they have to clear everything through the law department first and foremost to make sure that however the money is put into the city is in a way that, basically is legal and is enforceable. And I think that is kind of the crux of the question, how it's going to, work specifically. Where does the money go, to what pot the money goes into,
And then how it is
and then how it's
dispersed.
dispersed to the appropriate community organizations.
All right, well, hopefully since this was an idea came from the administration, they could figure it all out before this moves forward. Thank you.
And thank you, Councilman. I just want to echo that. Since it was the administration bill, I would have hoped they would have figured this out before we got here. Since certainly Councilman Squilla has tried to work with them to work all this situation out. But at the sponsor's request, we'll move this out of committee today, but we'll hold it at the meeting. And if there is any more or any amendments or any other explanation, that will be considered at our June 9th, the last meeting before our summer break, okay?
I understand.
So if that could be put on made clear that we want to work that all out by June 9th. Thank you. And I know that's not your call, Mr. Gregorski. I'm just getting that on record for anybody from the administration who may be listening to us. Thank you. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 150285? Seeing none, moving right along. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 150355, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within area bounded by 5th Street, Reed Street, 4th Street, and Dickinson Street. Further, to approve the residential mixed-use 2 district, RMX2, master plan for the site generally bounded by 5th Street, Reed Street, 4th Street, and Dickinson Street, formerly known as Mount Sinai Hospital.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director of the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. Here to testify on bill number 150355, which was introduced in the City Council on April 16, 2015 by Councilmember Squilla. Bill number 150355 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by rezoning an area bounded by 5th Street, Reed Street, 4th Street, and Dickinson Street, the site of the former Mount Sinai Hospital. Bill number 150355 rezones the former hospital site from its existing RSA 5 residential single-family attached to a new designation of RMX2 residential mixed-use district. The new RMX2 district requires both the rezoning of the property and the approval of a master plan in order for the zoning to become effective. This bill both changes the zoning of the property and approves the master plan for this site. The master plan for this site includes a residential townhome development for 95 units with 133 accessory parking spaces. The master plan has a floor area ratio of 221%, which is under the 250% maximum for the district, and has open area of 44%, where only 25% is required. At its meeting of May 19, 2015, the City Planning Commission recommended that bill number 150355 be approved with the following provisos concerning the approval of the master plan. First, an additional 4 feet must be added to the currently proposed 5 feet setback from the rear property lines of the existing row homes on the 400 block of Dickinson Street, making the proposed development setback to the north of these properties a total distance of 9 feet. Secondly, upon the review of the proposal by the Civic Design Review Committee, which is required for issuance of a zoning permit, the master plan should be amended to take into account the findings and recommendations of the committee. Lastly, the developer is required to provide the master plan and any subsequent changes to the plan to the registered community organizations whose boundaries include the former hospital site. The developer has responded to these provisos and has made the requested changes to the master plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Councilman Squilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the final version that we have now, how wide is the setback from the Dickinson Street neighbors?
9 feet.
9 feet, and that was the requested amount, or was
Requested the Planning Commission.
requested to the Planning Commission? And also, I know early on the project has also changed several times from its initial plan,
Correct.
and they added a through street. Is that correct?
It's not a street, it's a through driveway, but it was requested and basically mandated by the fire department for fire truck access.
And that was for safety and be able to access to homes in case there is a fire.
Correct.
And that is approved by the fire department also at this time?
Correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Gregorski? Seeing none. Whoever else like to testify, Mr. Patterson? Please identify yourself and proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Greenlee. My name's Ron Patterson. I'm with Claire Harrison Law Firm of Philadelphia. I represent the proposed owner and developer of this property. The property regards the old Mount Sinai Hospital. It sits on 3 acres. It has existing buildings that approach up to 146 feet tall. It's been vacant since 1997. There have been several zoning variances approved for this project to reuse the existing buildings, but none have come to fruition because they frankly were not viable. The property fronts on 4 streets, although we don't occupy full street frontage, borders 4th, 5th, Reed, and Dickinson. So our group looked at it again to see if we could reuse the existing buildings, and many consultants looked at it, but it was best determined to just demolish the building and came up with a plan to construct 95 homes. It's currently zoned RSA 5, which is conducive to single-family dwelling units, of course, but not conducive to a reuse of the building for multi-unit residential dwelling units. And to develop an RSA 5, we would have to have put through streets, city streets through there, so that each lot could have its own street frontage. But again, because we don't control all 4 streets, that was really unlikely. So working with the Planning Commission and the Fire Department, Councilman Squilla, Pennsport Civic Association, Dickinson Square West, and the Commerce Department, we arrived at this plan through many iterations. The Planning Commission recommended RMX 2, which allows for single-family dwelling units, and our design that we'll just go through briefly. It also allows planned urban development, which we will have with a homeowners association that will impose use restrictions such as no commercial uses, and also provide for the maintenance and repair of the common areas such as the streets and the green space. And most importantly, there's a master plan, as was mentioned by the Planning Commission, that's attached to this, and that ensures that what we show and what you approve is what we build. Unless there are changes, we would have to return back to the Planning Commission. And as Mr. Gregorski mentioned, this also has to go through civic design review because of the number of residential dwelling units and the amount of square feet we're constructing, and then back to the Planning Commission for a final review before we can have our zoning permit. So with that said, I want to introduce Greg Hill, who can just briefly give you the details of the plan. I'm going to page through the boards as he speaks, and then I'll give a 30-second closing. Thank you.
Okay, and before any more testimony, and you may have said this, Ms. Patterson, I'm sorry, there is a equal opportunity plan, EOP, that's being offered as an amendment today, correct?
That is correct. It's dated May 29. Although we are, the group are very experienced developers, we did seek the expertise of Jeffrey Smith with Global Synergies, who's to my right, to help us navigate through the Equal Opportunity Plan program. So we do have it signed as of Friday, and I have copies for you.
And that'll be put forward as an amendment at the meeting. I'm sorry, please.
Greg?
Proceed. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Hi, I'm Greg Hill. Good morning, Chairman Greeley, members of the Rule Committee. Thank you. As Ron mentioned, we've been studying this project for some time. We initially looked very hard at reuse of the existing hospital. It is an interesting historic structure, but unfortunately it closed in the mid-90s and has been deteriorating significantly since. And after an exhaustive study, we've determined that it really is not suitable for reuse. So we've created a fairly low-density residential community. There is parking in every home. Many of the homes have more than one space. So we believe this is going to be very low impact on the community from a parking standpoint. We've been able to create some nice open green space that will reduce the lot coverage as well as accommodate stormwater management issues. Yeah, the parking is actually in the homes. There's garages in each house. This plan has changed several times based on input from the Planning Commission and the Fire Department to make sure we have adequate access for fire trucks and so forth. The architecture is basically a fairly traditional design that will be very much in keeping with the neighborhoods of South Philadelphia. And we believe this is going to be a fairly low-impact quality amenity that should blend well with the existing fabric of this residential neighborhood.
I'm sorry.
Questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank-
We can take question, or you have something else to add?
No,
Mr.
I was going to say
Patterson?
thank you. If
okay.
there's anything else, we're happy to answer
Well,
questions.
thank you. Okay, Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hill, on the work with the community, I know you met with two community groups and several neighbors independently, and from that, changes has also come. Beside the Planning Commission and Fire Department request, you also made changes from community concerns. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We met with both Pennsport and Dickinson Square. We got a variety of comments back that we tried to accommodate in the plan. One of the concerns was that this not feel like a gated community. This is not a gated community. The streets are open. We've created a major thoroughfare through the center of the site that does have a landscaped pedestrian walkway that'll basically connect through 4th to 5th Street and really enhance the permeability of the project.
Is it a walkway? No cars could go through there? Or?
There's a center drive aisle that is suitable for vehicular use as well as a pedestrian sidewalk on the side.
And is that two-way traffic or?
Yes, it is.
It is. After I know because we received some concerns too, I know you went back to the drawing board several times, and I appreciate that as a council person representing the people there in Dickinson Square West and Pennsport. On the neighbors that the south side of the plan, which is Dickinson Street, their main concern, I know, was the setback. Initially, you had a 2-foot setback, and now it's a 9-foot setback.
Yes, we've increased that to 9 feet and created a landscape buffer on that side of the site as well.
And the rear yards of those homes have at least 9 feet of rear yard open space, which is in accordance with their RSA 5 zoning. So our setback and their setback has a substantial amount of open space between the two buildings.
And are those neighbors now on Dickinson Street, south side, in favor of the plan?
Yes, we've met with them subsequent to the revision of the plan, and they are comfortable with this layout.
I also received an email from Ms. Westcott on that, and she was very, I guess, happy that you were willing to work with her and make some of those changes to request the concerns there. Now, how many there's 95 total homes?
Yes, 95 homes.
And how many parking spaces?
We have 133 parking spaces.
133. So it's like 1.4, 1.3?
Yes, some of the homes are 20 feet wide that permit a 2-car garage. The balance are 16 or 18, and they have 1 car.
So every house has at least 1 car, and the 20-foot homes have 2-car garages?
Yes, correct.
And so the surrounding area, how many curb cuts were added to that facility from original?
We've actually reduced the curb cuts. There were a number of curb cuts that served the various parking lots for the old hospital facility. At this point, we're down to just 2 curb cuts.
So just 2 curb cuts on the whole project?
Yes, sir.
The 2 curb cuts regard that drive-through way and the walkway. There's also an emergency cut on one of the streets in case the fire trucks need access, but it's not to be used.
Reed Street, probably. Up at the top? Right. Okay, so we really didn't remove any parking places from the street surrounding the homes?
No, there will actually be an increase in parking on the perimeter of the site.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
I'm just curious to know, what is the price point range for potential home buyers?
The price point is in the high 400,000 range.
Okay. All right, then thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
welcome.
Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions on this bill? Anyone else here to testify on Bill 150355? Seeing none, thank you all very much. Good luck with.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our final bill today, Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 150441, an ordinance amending Chapter 9-3900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Property Licenses and Owner Accountability, Chapter 14-600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-2400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Hotel Room Rental Tax to facilitate short-term rentals of accommodations, to clarify the imposition and collection of hotel tax on the same, and to make technical and clarifying changes all under certain terms and conditions.
Okay, good morning. Whoever would like to go first, please.
Good morning. My name is Deputy Revenue Commissioner Marissa Waxman. I'm here testifying this morning on behalf of Revenue Commissioner Clarina Tolson. Good morning, Chairman Greenlee and members of the Committee on Rules. I'm here to testify in support of Bill number 150441, introduced by Councilman Greenlee as amended. My testimony today is focused on the changes to Chapter 19-2400 of the Philadelphia Code concerning the hotel room rental tax. I would like to begin by noting that Bill 150441 does not change who is subject to the hotel tax, the amount of tax due, or the usage of these funds. What Bill 150441 does, from a tax perspective, is make it easier for those who owe the hotel tax to file and pay. The hotel tax has always been applied to visitor accommodations, whether it is in a traditional hotel, motel, or bed and breakfast, or any other building, such as a home. The definition of a rental subject to the hotel tax is any lodging offered to the general public for less than 30 consecutive nights. As such, this tax has always been applied to short-term rentals of rooms or entire houses and apartments, like those listed with booking agents like Airbnb or HomeAway. The hotel tax is paid by the patron and collected and remitted to the city on a monthly basis by the hotel operator. The tax rate collected by the City of Philadelphia is 8.5%. Additionally, there's a 6% Pennsylvania hotel tax plus a 1% PICA hotel tax collected by the state on our behalf. The revenues collected by the city for the hotel tax go into the Hotel Tax Fund and are distributed per the state enabling legislation for tourism-related activities, including debt service for the construction of the convention center and tourism marketing. Bill 150441 will not change that. While traditional hotels can be expected to have professional staff to manage things like tax filings and payments, we understand that individuals occasionally renting out their spare room may not have a tax professional at their disposal. Bill 150441 allows booking agents used to advertise listings, manage reservations, and facilitate payment for the lodging to also collect and remit the hotel tax for the bookings they coordinate, freeing individuals from that administrative burden. We believe this also creates efficiencies for the Department of Revenue in the collection of this tax. For those that do not use a booking agent or use a booking agent that has opted not to collect and remit the hotel tax on behalf of those renting out rooms and homes, we are in the process of launching a new, easy-to-use online hotel tax filing and payment system designed for Marriott, not Marriott. Thousands of rentals of rooms for short-term accommodation in non-traditional settings are already happening in Philadelphia and are becoming mainstream. The administration of our hotel tax must keep up with the changes in the hospitality sector, and Bill 150441 does that by creating options to streamline the tax filing and payment process. For people to voluntarily comply with their tax obligations, it is important that we as a city make filing and paying the smartest and easiest choice for taxpayers. We aim to minimize the hassle for people who want to do the right thing and make doing the wrong thing, such as failing to pay your taxes, hard to do and with great likelihood of consequences. For this reason, Bill 150441 includes a provision that booking agents that opt not to collect and remit hotel tax on behalf of their customers will have to share contact information about what properties are being rented so we can ensure that everyone pays their fair share. We're pleased to support 150441 with the amendments and thank Councilman Greeley and members of this committee for your efforts to make sure that our tax code and administration reflect the reality of today's economy and is easy for Philadelphians to comply with. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to testify today, and we're happy to take any questions after Ms. Sharp's testimony.
Thank you. Ms. Sharp, please.
Good morning, Chairman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. I am Eleanor Sharp, Deputy Executive Director of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill 150441, which was introduced into City Council by Councilmember Greenlee on May 7, 2015. Currently, the Philadelphia Zoning Code does not authorize short-term rentals in residentially zoned areas throughout the city. Activity of this kind has arisen in recent years with the rise of online intermediaries like Airbnb and HomeAway. This bill would provide a straightforward, accessible means for Philadelphians to provide short-term rentals for those renting by way of a booking agent in a compliant way while imposing appropriate standards that will ensure these short-term rentals are always a benefit to all and never a detriment. The City Planning Commission at its meeting of May 19, 2015, recommended Bill number 150441 for approval. Since that meeting, City Planning staff has been working along with the Mayor's Legislative Office, the Department of Revenue, Law, and L&I on amendments to improve the bill. The bill as amended establishes a limited lodging short-term, and limited lodging home classifications to the zoning code. These will authorize short-term rentals made via a booking agent that is no longer than 30 days by any renter under the following conditions. Limited lodging must strictly comport with the character and livability of the neighborhood. Owner-occupants, meaning occupants who are eligible for a homestead exemption for the property that is being rented, can provide short-term rentals for up to 90 nights a year, not consecutively, with no additional regulatory requirement. In order to rent between 91 and 180 nights, which would be the maximum, the owner must obtain a use permit that can be revoked at any time for non-compliance. No rentals are permitted beyond 180 nights in a year. Renter occupants, meaning a permanent resident who is renting the dwelling with the permission of the owner of the property that is being rented, can provide short-term rentals for up to 90 nights a year with no additional regulatory requirement. In order to rent between 91 and 180 nights, the owner of the property must obtain a use permit that can be revoked at any time for non-compliance. No rentals, again, are permitted beyond 180 nights in a year. Non-occupant owners, meaning owners of a property who are not eligible for a homestead exemption for the property that is being rented, are not eligible to rent in this manner. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify here today, and we would be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. I was just told that there still might be one more change in the works. I have to sarcastically say, when you talk about all those departments being involved, this isn't your two fault. I'm just totally confused at this point. But in any event, before I recognize Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, I just want to make, and both of you said this, but I want to be clear for the record. Number one, the hotel tax for these kind of rentals was always, the owner was always liable, correct, Ms. Waxman?
Correct.
Okay. And Ms. Sharp, the other issue is that these kind of short-term rentals by these companies technically was not legal, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Because I want to put on record, it was...
They're not regulated. They're currently not regulated.
Okay. Because I want to make it clear, Airbnb came to us to ask that these issues be worked out because they have been worked out in other cities, and we wanted to make clear that, or try to be clear, that everything is fair both to the company, the booking company, the person renting, and the host, okay?
And the neighborhood.
And the community.
Yes.
And the community, which is very important, okay?
Yes.
And we think we've gotten there.
We think.
Maybe. Okay. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, and then Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think it's the maybe that may give us some caution as we proceed. So a couple of questions first. To your, the sponsor of the bill said that the effective date is July 1?
Correct, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at less than 90 days conceivably. Actually, we're looking at less than 30. So knowing that it takes a minute for new measures like this to be made aware to citizens, and particularly those persons that will be impacted, what measures are you taking within your department to ensure A, awareness, B, awareness, and C, awareness, because there are consequences if they're not aware? So within your departments, what measures are you have in place?
So within the Department of Revenue, we're most concerned with folks being able to file and pay appropriately and not have any problems doing that. We've been developing informational materials for folks just to say, okay, I'm engaged in this activity. What am I supposed to do? And we've worked with L&I and other folks to develop and will then distribute once this is in place.
So what time frame is that, if we're looking at a July 1 effective date?
Those will be able to get out via web and other channels within a week or two, very quickly. We're also, by July, probably 6 weeks away, about 6 to 8 weeks away from having a new hotel tax online filing and payment system that basically we're designing to be as simple as possible. While the hope is that many of the booking agents will opt to collect and remit on behalf of these residents and owners doing this, which means they have no tax filing obligation if it's entirely taken care of, that'd be great. That's what makes it really simple for Philadelphians. There's nothing new that they have to do. We are putting in place this new system for the folks that will need to do that and attempting to make it incredibly simple to do, and we'll be letting folks know. Also, as part of this, for the folks that do need to file on their own, that they don't have a booking agent doing it, the booking agents will be required to provide us with information so that we're able to reach out and target directly. Our effectiveness is much greater when we can talk directly to the folks who have this obligation as opposed to try and talk to 1.5 million Philadelphians. So we're working on ways to really target our communications to the folks that need to know this information.
And so in no way to be presumptuous, the Hospitality and Tourism Agency support this measure?
I believe they're in a subsequent panel.
They'll be testifying, yes.
Great, okay. All right, so if they'll be testifying, then have you begun to work with the hospitality and tourism community to ensure that this new measure is well advertised, well advertised?
We're happy to continue the conversations we've had to make sure that everyone has all of the information they need.
Okay, all right then, thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Sponsor.
Thanks, I think. Councilman Heenan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did we already vote? Huh? Did we already vote? Good morning, and thank you for your testimony. As I too want to thank the sponsor for putting this out there, and I think the shared economy is exciting, and I think it's a direction that we need to go here in the city of Philadelphia at various levels. So, but we want to get it right, and we want to get it right the first time and tweak as need be. I have a few questions. Homestead exemptions, you said anybody who qualifies for Airbnb does not, they're not qualified for homestead exemption, is that correct?
No.
So when we were trying to figure out what's the standard of who is a homeowner, there was a bunch of different ways that you could try and figure out, are you a homeowner, is this person not a homeowner? And we realized that because we already have a homestead exemption, which the state enabling legislation sort of says this is the definition of homeowner, we're just going to use that same definition. So if you're a homeowner for the purposes of getting the homestead exemption, you're a homeowner for the purposes of this bill as well. It was important to us to have one definition so that folks know, okay, I've got a homestead exemption, I'm treated as a homeowner under these provisions as well. It was to simplify and not create any new definitions.
So if it's your primary residence,
Yeah,
you would still qualify for homestead exemption?
Absolutely, yeah. This will not impact your access.
Even if it's, I'm going to say, rented out to the capacity of 180 days, you would still qualify?
Still under the definition,
qualify.
yes.
If I could just add, Councilman, just so you're clear, because in a lot of cases, when these are used through Airbnb, the person still is living there. They're also sharing, so it's not like they're not living there while they're renting out, say, for the Pope's visit or whatever.
All we did was grab the definition. It doesn't impact the
right.
homestead exemption at all.
I think having consistency is important, which leads me to that consistency across multi-departments in the city of Philadelphia, with streets department and trash collection and, other kinds of L&I, property maintenance issues and violations, I'm sure still would apply to somebody who's using their primary residence for Airbnb. Is that correct?
Correct.
And tax clearance before a use permit or any other kind of issuance of commercial licenses.
Yeah, everything that occurs now would continue to occur with this, as well as the additional enforcement on the hotel tax of ensuring that that's being properly paid.
So in L&I, in Department of L&I, for a housing inspection license, you need to be tax cleared through Department of Revenue, as you well know. Would this apply to Airbnb? Similar?
We're going to defer to L&I.
L&I is here, too.
I mean, I assume they're going to be receiving a city benefit as far as a use permit that's issued, and
Please identify yourself.
Good morning, Chairman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. My name is Michael Fink. I'm Deputy Commissioner at License and Inspections assigned to Deputy Mayor Greenberger's office. Councilman Heenan, the same rules that apply for any permit and license will apply in this case too. So when a license is required because you have a tenant-occupied property, a license will be required here. The only exemption will be for those folks that are conducting these activities for up to 90 days through a year and you're a homeowner, then you wouldn't have to have a license in that case.
And I agree. So I'm not disputing. I just want to make sure that the same type of process for tax clearances before permitting somebody to have their primary residence for Airbnb is applied the same as an HIL.
That would be correct, sir.
Or permits or any other kind of issuance from any department.
That would be correct, sir. Yes.
Okay, great. And use permit, is that by right or is that administrative clearance?
The use permit would be by right for those that are
That qualify, right?
that qualify for this and agree to adhere to the standards of the zoning code.
Wonderful. And back-end work for effective date, we have about 8 months? Is that? What is the effective date?
Effective
July
date's
1st.
July 1st of this year.
Oh, okay.
30 days.
30 days already. Well, we have our work cut out for us.
And in fairness, when we first met on this, Councilman, we talked about getting the information out, so they have been working on getting all this together. We couldn't officially do it till the bill was passed, obviously, but everything is sort of ready to go out.
Well, I mean, in anticipation of this hearing and
Next year.
the opportunity for final passage, I'm sure a lot of the back-end work is already pretty much where it needs to be. And I mean, you answered a lot of my questions. I just want to ensure that we are holding people accountable for tax clearances, and that wherever district council person or the administration is has the proper documentation and everything like that that's reported back to us.
Correct, sir.
I have no further questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Councilman. Councilman Squilla, then back to Councilman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that, if it's clear, if they just rent it for a couple times, they don't need a permit. Is that correct?
Correct, up to
That's
90
correct.
days per year for the year.
So over 90 days, if they rent their property over 90 days, then they would need to go through getting a permit.
Correct.
So there's really no way to really go, I guess, for tax clearances or anything like that if they just rent it 5 or 6 times a year. Correct? Or no?
So, for the folks who are doing this for less than 90 nights a year, even though they don't need a permit, the tax is still due, so we'll continue to be collecting the hotel tax, and then sort of be aware of what else they're doing if there's other tax liabilities that arise out of that.
Also, so I understand Airbnb and some other quality rentals will be hopefully taking the tax out, the initial payment, and then forwarding to the city. But how about like a Craigslist type listing, or people who do things that don't usually go through an organization
Right.
like that? Now, you said they have to give you the people who rent their properties, but what is the ramifications if they don't?
So there are penalties already in the Philadelphia Code for failing to report required information under Chapter 1900. I believe in this bill, we've gone to the maximum $2,000 a month or per occurrence, which is each month the report's not filed from those booking agents that are required to turn over that information. The baseline amount, the default in the code is $300 per occurrence.
So like Craigslist or other type of agency?
Yeah, a booking, just simply advertising, so perhaps, I'm not sure whether Craigslist would qualify, but say any other booking agent that helps facilitate the reservation and the payment, they would be required to turn over that information to us. And if they don't, there are penalties for that.
But there's other agencies that aren't booking agencies that people get together and rent properties and other things off of. But there's no way we'd know.
Right, and so and that gives us, some room for enforcement and other things that we'll have to do to make sure that folks are filing. We're creating the ability for everyone to comply voluntarily, but we will maintain our right to make sure that those that don't comply voluntarily comply involuntarily.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. Before I recognize Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, the basic idea behind this was at least trying to make the booking agents a more smooth process. We know that there are others who are doing stuff sort of behind the scenes, under the table, whatever word you want to use, and that's something that these good folks will have to try to enforce. But we want to at least make the folks that were trying to do it right, which in fairness, Airbnb and all, again, want to emphasize they came to us. We want to make clear or try to make it as easy as possible. And I think now we have about the fifth change in the amendments, but we're getting there, okay? Thank you. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, I'm sorry.
In the spirit of Councilman Heenan's remarks, let's try to get this right. What provisions are or could be in place, because we're going to miss somebody. When we listen to the level of questioning around the implementation, we're going to miss someone by July 1. And so is there any grace period or whatever to accommodate those who are not going to hear about it, participate in the action, and then be penalized for it because they didn't know about it? So let's walk in the shoes of the citizens right now.
One thing that I would mention is because folks who are doing this in their home for fewer than 90 nights per year after the effective date, that almost builds in an automatic 3-month grace period of folks, so that nobody could actually violate that portion of needing a permit for 3 months anyway after July 1, and that's assuming that they rented out their property every single night for those 3 nights. So I think that buys us some time to make sure folks get the word before it's really a problem.
Okay. Then I offer this up as food for thought. When the menu labeling bill was passed, now 5-6 years ago, I worked with L&I and Health, where we actually had orientation sessions for restaurateurs who were now going to be required to honor the spirit of that legislation. So I'd like to suggest that over the next year, you invite in those members of the industry so that you can hear from them up close and personal that which they don't understand, in an effort to be hospitable to those that are now expected to pay taxes.
Yes,
Okay?
fabulous. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Good suggestions. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you for all the work you've done on this. Ms. Marconi, I know we have a few panels here.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Max Pomernak.
Still morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Max Pomerantz.
A little closer microphone.
Sure. Max Pomerantz. I'm the regional head of public policy for Airbnb on the East Coast. So thank you here. Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee, thank you for having me here today to discuss home sharing as you move forward on creating thoughtful and fair regulation in Philadelphia. Over the past few years, we have worked with cities across the country to find the right balance of regulating a growing industry while not slowing down innovation. Over the past few months, we have had ongoing and productive discussions with Philadelphia's elected leaders and look forward to continuing the conversation. I'd like to start with a little bit about Airbnb. Founded in 2008, Airbnb is a trusted community marketplace for people to list and book accommodations in more than 35,000 cities around the world. Airbnb connects travelers to unique local experiences. Simply put, Airbnb allows anyone to belong anywhere. Our platform helps strangers see the city as a local does and lets local hosts become ambassadors for the communities that they love. So here's how it works. People take extra space, sometimes an extra bedroom, sometimes an entire home. They post it online for potential guests to book. People who share their homes, and we call them hosts, take photos, they set the rules, they make their home welcoming to guests from all over the world. Prior to any reservation, guests and hosts get to know one another thanks to detailed profiles and authentic two-way reviews. Airbnb only allows reviews from either guests or hosts that partook in the reservation. This helps ensure that users get benefit from meaningful feedback. Home sharing allows working and middle-class Philadelphians to turn what is typically one of their greatest expenses into a tool to help make ends meet. The vast majority of our hosts, on average about 82%, are simply renting the home in which they live. Many hosts use Airbnb as a supplemental source of income. Most of our hosts tend to be regular residents who share their homes to pay the bills. Airbnb guests generate sustainable local economic activity, support small businesses across the city. In the past year, the number of guests on Airbnb in Philadelphia has doubled to over 53,000 per year, a number we will expect to grow as Philadelphia soon hosts many exciting events and attractions and attracts people from all over the world. As more and more local residents embrace this new economy and are empowered to safely make this supplemental income, it's important to avoid unnecessary hurdles. The approach Philadelphia has taken and the proposal presented today are good steps in the right direction. While this proposal would enable some hosts to share their homes, we do have strong concerns regarding language clarifications, the registration process, and the unusual step of requiring landlord permission. In terms of language clarifications, we notice the bill has certain inconsistencies that do not make it clear if renters can partake in home sharing. We are uncertain who exactly is required to get a permit and what is the actual process of permitting. Will there be questions? We have other questions, such as, is the process to get a permit going to be online? Is there a waiting period? And what will the cost be? Furthermore, what about someone who only has one home in Philadelphia, but it's not their primary residence? Many people have one home, but it's not the home they live in 180 days a year, and they choose to rent it out when they're not here. In general, our hosts are regular residents of the city who tend to only occasionally rent their home, and we believe that greater clarity and simplification around who can rent and how would improve the proposal and make it easier to implement. There's one last concern I'd like to single out. This is a requirement for renters to get landlord permission. This could mean that a tenant would be required to get permission from a landlord even if his or her lease already has permission in it. As a general principle, we believe that the contractual aspects of landlord-tenant relationships should be left to the tenant and the landlord to agree upon. But even with these concerns, we want to reiterate there's lots of room for good regulation around this activity, and we applaud the approach taken by the leaders in this city. At this point, we know the bill is a bit of a work in progress, but we are very eager to be a part of the conversation. I congratulate the members of this committee for addressing this issue and look forward to working with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. First, again, I want to recognize for the record and thank you because you came to us. You could have tried to keep being behind the scenes there, and you didn't do that. So we really appreciate that. Now, most people don't volunteer to get regulated, so thank you.
We try.
Let me just say on your one. Now, have you seen the latest? I made reference to a number of amendments here. Have you seen the latest ones, or?
I think it's literally just like.
Okay.
So like I got it right before I came
Okay.
up. So
all right. No, I know.
The answer is yes and no.
Unfortunately, we operate like that sometimes here. Let me just touch on the one last thing you said about the renter. I really feel, because remember, in what I said in the beginning was there's a whole lot of people we want to do right by. Certainly your company or companies like yours, the host, the person coming in, the renter, the visitor, but also the community. And it seems to me that making clear that a rental property, that the renter has the permission of the owner, seems to me to be pretty important as a protection for the community. And that's why I actually think that, personally, I don't know how anybody else feels, I think that's a pretty good idea, and I understand it might be another hurdle, and I get that, but I think there is something here that the liability issue is where first one of these amendments was on the company, it is now on the owner of the property. Am I right?
Sure, and I understand. I think that's a strong concern. I guess it's with the actual how broad the language is, like what is permission. And our concern, and we've seen this in other cities and other places, is when this comes down to the actual making of the process, what will permission be? Will it be written? Will it be notarized? Will it be? And so it depends on where you go on that spectrum. If the question is, have they had a conversation with their landlord and informed them? That's one thing. Have they gotten written note? But I'm saying this is a spectrum, and depending on where it is, because a lot of landlords have told us, my tenant tells me, my tenant lets me know, it helps them pay the rent. I'm good with it. Some landlords say, I don't want it in my building, and I don't want it at all, and we fully respect and expect people not to do it when their landlord doesn't want it. My main concern is that.
No, I understand. I would think there would have to be something in writing, though, just maybe even to protect you folks, you know, in case down the road something, you know, the owner says, well, I never said that, you know, that kind of thing. So I think, but again, I think that's worked through regulations and will be worked out over, you know, the period of time as we implement. And I understand it is a quick process, but I think given the circumstances, I think we might be able to work this stuff out, you know. But I understand what you're saying, but I think that last point that you made, I really think I lean towards protection for the community in that.
And we support those sorts of protections. We really do. We just want to make sure that when this gets to the process of the permitting, it doesn't become something that deters regular people from saying, you know what, like, some landlords just don't respond or want to do this. Like, they'll say sure, but they're not going to go through the process of sending you a letter, right? I mean, I think we've all at times dealt with landlords who say, yeah, you know, go do it, but I'm not going to go out of my way for it. So we worry about that because this process sometimes gets cumbersome, but it's an important flag for us. But thank you.
Okay, I got you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, again, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming here. Ms. Marconi, who do we have next?
Cindy Ray, Wanda Paul, and Ed Gross.
Thank you. Good morning. Whoever would like to start? Looks like we got more than 3 people coming up, but okay.
How you doing?
Whoever would like to start, please identify yourself and proceed.
Good morning. My name is Ed Gross. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Philadelphia Hotel Association, which represents over 90 hotels around the region, including all of the hotels in Center City and most within Philadelphia. I'm here today to thank Councilman Greenlee for introducing Bill number 150441 and to express the hotel industry support for this legislation, which would require non-hotels that rent guest rooms, such as those listed on the Airbnb website, to collect the Philadelphia hotel tax. Bill number 150441 is about fairness. Philadelphia hotels contribute over $53 million annually in hotel taxes, which is in addition to the 7% state and local sales tax. The revenue from the hotel tax pays the bonds on the Pennsylvania Convention Center and funds both the PHLCVB and Visit Philadelphia, the 2 market agencies that attract almost 40 million visitors to Philadelphia each year. Additionally, the $44 million sales tax generated annually by a healthy hotel industry and the billions of dollars of positive economic impact generated by the convention and tourism industry contributes mightily to help our schools, pave our roads, and provide social services for our residents, and enables the employment of approximately 65,000 residents. If passed, this bill will require Airbnb to collect the hotel tax for rooms rented on their website, just as they do in other cities like Chicago, San Francisco, Portland, and Washington, D.C. When considering the additional tax requirements hotels face, such as wage, liquor, use and occupancy, BRRT, and amusement taxes, it seems reasonable to at least mandate the hotel tax for Airbnb-operated rooms. Otherwise, they are being granted an enormous operating advantage, no taxes and no regulation, while directly competing with one of the most heavily taxed and regulated industries in our city. We welcome and support an open, sharing economy. We only seek a level playing field for our members, for Philadelphia, and for our guests. If passed, this bill also has an important, valuable consequence for Airbnb. It legalizes their right to operate in Philadelphia. Technically, Airbnb does not currently have a legal right to operate in Philadelphia. Many think Airbnb is an early-stage entrepreneurial venture. The truth is their market valuation is greater than both Hyatt and Wyndham and is growing far faster than any hotel company. Their CEO last year said that while Marriott added 30,000 rooms to their inventory, Airbnb matched that amount in just 2 weeks. They'll only continue to grow and eventually be a major part of the Philadelphia hospitality industry. Please pass Bill number 150441 and let Airbnb help fund the Pennsylvania Convention Center, the PHL-CVB, and Visit Philadelphia. Airbnb benefits from all of those organizations and should have the same responsibility to provide the necessary funding to support them. More importantly, they should contribute to Philadelphia's economy and well-being of Philadelphia's citizens, rather than diluting one of Philadelphia's most vital and yet still fragile industries. The Greater Philadelphia Hotel Association urges you to pass this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We'll hear from the others, and then if there's any questions. Whoever like, Ms. Paul, you want to go? Or?
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Greenlee, and members of the Rules Committee for the opportunity to speak in support of Council Bill 150441, which will subject short-term rentals of private residences, such as those services offered by Airbnb, to the Philadelphia hotel tax, as well as the Philadelphia hospitality tax. I'm Wanda Paul, Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration of the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau, PHL-CVB. As the official tourism promotion agency for the city and the sales and marketing arm of the Pennsylvania Convention Center, the PHL-CVB markets Philadelphia as a world-class convention and global tourism destination to a national and international audience. As of the end of 2014, PHL-CVB booked over 3 million future hotel room nights, which will generate an estimated economic impact of $4.4 billion. Also in 2014, hotel occupancy in Center City enjoyed its highest rates since 1949 at 75.5%. As Philadelphia continues to grow as a premier convention and tourism destination, hotel room demand grows exponentially, as we are experiencing with the upcoming World Meetings of Families in September and the Democratic National Convention next year. It's evident that more and more travelers are turning to web-based applications such as Airbnb, where residents offer their rooms up for short-term rent to visitors as an alternative to traditional overnight commercial hotel accommodations. As this trend continues to grow in popularity, it is also imperative and fair that these private lodging transactions be subject to the same rules and regulations as an overnight accommodation in a commercial hotel. We applaud Airbnb and the city in their efforts to apply and collect the hotel room tax component at the point of sale, involving a short-term rental of a Philadelphia residence, and also maintain the current distribution of the hotel tax revenue. The PHL-CVB supports the same taxation and collection standards be applied to these web-based applications as those which commercial hotels in the city are subject, involving a short-term accommodation. By doing so, the city and web-based short-term residential rental providers demonstrate an understanding of tax fairness and a continued investment in our city's hospitality industry. The PHL-CVB, the Pennsylvania Convention Center, and Visit Philadelphia are all the beneficiaries of the hotel tax revenue, and together with our marketing partners, use that revenue to market Philadelphia as a convention and tourism destination. In 2014, the PHL-CVB focused our portion of the Philadelphia hotel tax revenues to increase convention center bookings and attract international visitor travelers for leisure and business. One of the highlights of those marketing efforts is the PHL Here for the Making campaign, produced in partnership with the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce and key hospitality organizations, along with support from the City of Philadelphia, which has been driving positive results for our industry and region. According to the most recent statistics available, Philadelphia climbed from 14th to 13th most visited city in the United States by international visitors from 2012 to 2013. As funding for convention and tourism marketing continues to decline from traditional sources such as the Commonwealth, the PHL-CVB and our hospitality partners depend on the city hotel tax revenue collections now more than ever. We urge you to support Bill 150441. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer questions after Cindy.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Please.
Good morning. I'm Cindy Ray, Chief Financial Officer of Visit Philadelphia, a nonprofit organization that promotes Philadelphia through advertising campaigns, media relations, websites, and social media. Visit Philadelphia operates the city's official visitor website, visitphilly.com. These efforts build Philadelphia's image, drive visitation, and boost the economy. Thank you, City Council, for all the support you've provided to Visit Philadelphia through the years. We've worked together to achieve tremendous growth of our travel and tourism industry. I am testifying today on behalf of Visit Philadelphia's board and staff, led by Manuel Stamatakis, Board Chairman, and Meryl Levitz, President and CEO, and joined here by my colleagues Fritz Smith, Vice President, Research and Hotel Initiatives, Jim Werner, Senior Director of Industry Relations, and Aaron Horton, Senior Web Producer, in support of Bill number 150441, an ordinance that expands the imposition of the hotel tax already imposed on hotel rooms to short-term limited lodging rentals. This is not a new tax. It is a necessary expansion of the tax for today's sharing economy and travel industry. As with the hotel tax in general, visitors will pay this tax, not local property owners. The ordinance calls for regulating limited lodging accommodations, which already exist in Philadelphia, so that the proprietors adhere to safety and quality of life standards. In turn, residents should know that their quality of life will remain intact. Proper, respectful regulation means ensuring a positive experience for both visitors and residents without being overbearing. The city is made up of dozens of personality-packed neighborhoods that are serviced by these limited lodging options. Visitors benefit from the opportunity to experience a distinct side of the city, and we want to foster that sense of like a local travel in Philadelphia. The additional tax revenue generated by these stays would be allocated to Visit Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Pennsylvania Convention Center Authority in the distribution formula as mandated by state enabling law. While we appreciate receiving any additional revenue, we anticipate that the funds generated by taxing limited lodging accommodations will be minimal. However, those funds would support our marketing efforts to draw people to Philadelphia. Thanks to your support, and in part to Visit Philadelphia's successful marketing campaigns, including Philly's More Fun When You Sleep Over, With Love Philadelphia XOXO, Philly 360, Philadelphia Get Your History Straight and Your Nightlife Gay, and Con Carino Philadelphia XOXO, visitation to Philadelphia has been on the rise and is a true success story for our city. In 2014, travelers booked a record 3.1 million room nights in Center City, Philadelphia alone. Nearly a third of those room nights were booked by leisure travelers, those people who come here to have fun, enjoy our museums, explore our neighborhoods, take in our art, discover our history, and eat our fantastic food. They're choosing to spend their time and money here. Leisure travel has dramatically increased since the city's collective will focused on making Philadelphia a destination, and Visit Philadelphia began marketing. Leisure hotel room nights in Center City have grown an impressive 273%, from 254,000 in 1997 to 948,000 in 2014. What's more, Philadelphia's Saturday night hotel occupancy, which is a major indicator of a destination's leisure strength, is the busiest night of the week. I thank the Greater Philadelphia Hotel Association for leading this effort, and Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Pennsylvania Convention Center Authority for their support of this ordinance, and Philadelphia City Council for considering my testimony today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Any questions or comments? Before I recognize Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Mr. Gross, you used the word fairness, and I think I would certainly extend that certainly to what you're talking about here, but the whole process of what we're trying to do. We're trying to be fair to everybody. Certainly fair that the city gets its money and that is filtered to you good folks, but also that, again, it's fairness to the renter, fairness to the host, fairness to the booking company, and fairness to the community. So I think fairness is maybe the one word I could wrap everything up with when it comes to this bill. Thank you. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
Yes. Could you please Visit Philadelphia outline for me the composition of your budget? I'm curious to know what percentage, if any, how does the city of Philadelphia contribute in any way to the work of Visit Philadelphia by way of budget allocation? So outline for me the specifics of your budget, where you get your funding.
We get our funding primarily from the hotel tax, and at this point in time, that amounts to about 80% of our budget.
Okay.
In addition, we do seek funding from foundations and other donors in order to support our marketing efforts and specific campaigns. And we also have other sources of revenue. We work with marketing partners and so forth. So,
I know a few years ago, the hospitality industry in general in the city was adversely impacted by former Governor Corbett's decision. Are you receiving any dollars from the state yet or again?
we are not receiving funding from the state at the level that was received back in, prior to the previous administration.
So if 80% comes from the hotel tax, what percentage now comes from the state? You said not at the level before. So what was the level before and what's the level now?
I'm sorry, I don't have those percentages available. I'm happy to provide them to you
Okay,
when I
that
have
would
the
be
paperwork
helpful.
in front of me. Okay.
All right, then thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Squilla, if you can get us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say this is, listening to the testimony is great when you have all these people coming here in support of a tax and how great the
I like
tax
that
is.
too.
And it's really interesting, but I think it's for the better, and I think everybody agrees that it puts everybody on the same playing field, which is what we want to do here in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you all for your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, again, thank you all.
Thank you.
Did any of you want to testify, or you heard for moral support, or what? Okay, moral support, okay. All right, thank you very much. Ms. Marconi, I think,
Rachel Hewitt and John Boris.
as they're approaching, is there anyone else other than the two witnesses coming forward that wish to testify? You do, back there? I want you. All right, how many we got here? Hold on. 1, 2. All right, ma'am, why don't you come forward, too? Anyone else other than these three people? All right. All right, why don't you sit in the back there so we can move right forward? No, you sit right there, ma'am. Okay. All right, which one of you are testifying now?
Rachel Hewitt.
No, go ahead.
I'm here on behalf of Hillary.
My humor escaped a lot of people. Go ahead.
Apologies.
Sorry.
Great. So hopefully what I lack in
Pull the microphone a little closer, please. This is sometimes hard to hear.
Is this better?
And just say your name again for the record.
Rachel Hewitt. I'm a host with Airbnb. And I became a host after my experience as a guest. We purchased a home in the Art Museum District, and when we arrived
That would be Fairmount, correct?
Fairmount,
Thank
yes. We're at 20th and Fairmount. Excuse me if I misspoke. What some people call Fairmount. When we got here, our home wasn't ready, and it was pushed back a week at a time 4 times. But my husband's job started right away at Thomas Jefferson. So to be quite honest, we couldn't afford any of the hotels in the city. And if it weren't for Airbnb, we probably would have gone to New Jersey, which would have been difficult, but we would have eaten in New Jersey and shopped in New Jersey. But because of Airbnb, we were able to stay in a different location of the city each week. And in the first month, I got a crash course on how amazing it is. We stayed in South Philly, we stayed in Center City by the hospitals, we stayed just north of Fairmount, and had such an incredible time that we decided to open up 2 of the rooms in our 3-bedroom home in Fairmount for Airbnb guests. And if you want to talk about community, that's been my favorite way to learn about the city. We've had someone from Belgium come in to audition for the Kimmel Center as a cellist. We've had exchange students from China who are here for a research council, and we have had people coming here looking for places to live. And in their conversations with me, they exchange ideas with what the best places are to go and what the best places are to visit, and I do the same for them. And instead of, giving a call downstairs for room service, they ask me what the best restaurants are in the area, and I send them there. And I have my list of favorites, and we send them to visitphilly.com because we're proud of our city, and I know that people do come here to visit because there are so many sights to see, but because they have such a good time at my house, they want to come back. So we get a lot of repeat guests, which is so wonderful. And honestly, I wouldn't let people I didn't trust sleep down the hall from my daughter. And I have loved every single person I have met. And paying the taxes is so easy. And when it comes to information, I don't mind that there are all these addendums going around and all of this paperwork that took a while to print out and staple and get to me, because I know that if Airbnb gives it to me, I'll probably get it on my phone. And I can read it in the grocery store, which makes it so easy because I have that support system, but I'm only renting out 2 rooms in a place that I'm really proud of. So I'm happy to answer any questions as any good host would.
Well, we'll hear from all 3, but I'm
Great.
sure one of the restaurants you direct people to, all those great restaurants on Fairmount Avenue, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
There
but
you
we
go.
also know restaurants in Center City because my husband
Okay,
works down
all
there
right.
as well.
Okay.
So they just take the 33 bus right down to the Liberty Bell.
There you go, there you go. Whoever would like to go next, please.
Can I go?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
My name is Crystal Epam. I'm also an Airbnb host. So I'm very much in support of the hotel tax that is going to be implemented, but I guess my main concern is the restriction for like the 90 days and having to get a permit and everything. It's definitely important to be fair, but what we have to recognize is that it's not just like Airbnb versus like hotels. It's us people. We are the hosts. We are the ones who have to go through all of this paperwork, right? So there are hotels that have, you know, huge staff on hand, but I'm the maid, I'm the concierge, I'm the bell person, I'm all of those things. So to also add on top of that, having to go through like getting permits and all of that stuff, that would just complicate things, I think, unnecessarily so. But yeah, so that's all.
Okay, I have a comment on that, but
Okay.
I'll let the gentleman speak first, and then, please.
My name is John Boris. I'm an attorney. I have a home in which my wife and I live in Philadelphia, and
A little closer to the mic, you've got a cell phone.
so we're renting out a room there, just one room. And it's not all about profit. We get a lot of joy in meeting people from different professions and countries and regions and industries and all walks of life. And the networking value to this is really good. And we also refer people, as others do, to local businesses for food and supplies and restaurants. This is not a bed and breakfast, nor is it being offered as a bed and breakfast. I just want to make that clear. So there's no implications for the food licensing and liquor licensing and taxing. And I intend to rent over 180 days a year. And you know, other organizations, other people use their home over 180 days a year. So you know, like for example, if you're selling stuff out of your home over the internet, so we don't think the 180-day restriction should count against the cap. Also, this is not a whole space rental. We're staying there and living there while people are there. I also believe this is already legal, despite prior testimony, because, well, I have a permit for it. Now, regarding the original character, the neighborhood, this is not new. Since colonial times, mostly older single women have been offering rooms in houses all over the colonies for fellowship and for money. And we here get to show other people why we love the city. And now some homeowners like me would rent over 180 days a year, and others would rent maybe just 4 nights a year. My concern is the tax should not be draconian and harsh and have the unintended consequences of not wanting to rent rooms. So for example, over at the zoo, they use very heavy chains to control the elephants. They don't use heavy chains to control the foxes and the small coyotes. So that's my analogy on the topic of why that shouldn't, the tax should not be as high, the hotel tax. This is not a hotel. None of these things are, no meals, no room service. no more than 3 non-family friends in the building at one time, no concierge, no phone in the room, no maintenance or cleaning employees, no alcoholic beverages served or offered, no pool, no spa, no meeting rooms, no sauna, no restaurant, no gym, no bar, no lobby shop, no taxi stand, no waiters, no entertainment encouraging guests to linger around, no lock on the room door, no large unmonitored hallways, no 200 or 100 or 50 or even 5 guest rooms. There's typically only one. And it's never approved as an event space. No one is advocating that, despite the horror stories you might have seen on the internet. We're as interested as everybody here about the safety of our houses and communities, so we're all pretty careful of who we're inviting in. So that should give people a lot of comfort. We've made investment in our houses just like you all have. Just one other comment here. You know, it's my wife is from Turkey, and as they say in ancient Greece, all things in moderation. So, you know, we realize how vital it is to be watchful and vigilant as to what's going on. I'm sure in your places there's no hazardous activities being conducted, no criminal activity, no strange equipment being stored, no loud music, defecating, all of that. It's just a room, you know. It's just a room. And it's great for making even business connections because people are not inclined to be hanging out all day long. They want to get up and go to the convention center to go to these important conventions you're hosting, or go to the fabulous tourist destinations right here in Center City. Let's see.
All right, sir, I
think that's it.
We got the point. Yeah. Thank you. Let me just say, one of the ideas behind this bill was actually make it easier for the host, that the Airbnb or other booking agents are now have the ability to collect a tax, and they really deal more with the renter than the host. So I think you'll find that this bill will not, in my opinion, put further regulations on you. I think it should make things easier, and there won't be any concern later that the city could come after you for anything, because the booking company will be handling that. So and I think that was misunderstood a lot, because when this bill was first introduced, I was called some names I never even heard of before by some people who called, because I don't think they understood the purpose behind this bill. This bill is really to make it easier for everybody, but I do think that in any other endeavor, there has to be regulations. And where you folks, I have no doubt, do things the right way, there are folks who might not do things the right way. So you try to find reasonable, and we can all debate on what's reasonable, but we try to find reasonable regulations on what was an unregulated industry or business, if you will. And again, we could debate whether we've reached that perfect point, but I think we've gotten pretty close to it, again, using Mr. Gross's words, as fairness for everybody. So anyway, I just throw that out there because I don't think you will experience problems. And let me just say to you, Ms. Hewitt, do you find it more comforting in dealing with a company like Airbnb that you know they have vetted the person who will be coming to your property?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
And again, we want to make sure that they are legal to do what they're doing.
Well, and because I went through the process of verification, I know how detailed it is. So I know that everyone coming to me had to go through the same process. So that really puts everyone on a level playing field, and it brings out the best behavior, because I want to have a good rapport with Airbnb, just like the people renting. And on your note on regulation, I don't think any of us minds the regulation, because if if it is for our benefit, it's going to make our job easier, and I agree with that. My concern is the 180-day cap. Our first year, we rented almost 200 days, and it was an extraordinary experience. And so the difference between restriction and regulation, I think, is really important for us. That sort of cap seems unnecessary and detrimental, but we're more than happy to comply with the regulations year-round.
We went around with those numbers a lot. They were actually lower at first, and we brought them up higher. I do think, though, there comes a point where if you're renting a space in your property, either if the person's staying with you or you're not there, I think it crosses into a different kind of business after a while. And I would say if you're renting a space for more than half a year, which is basically what we're talking here, I think you're doing a little bit different business than a short-term rental, which is what we're trying to do here. So that was the idea behind the 90-day, 180-day thing, to show that you, in one sense, you are different from other businesses.
Well, from my experience renting almost 200 days, and I will probably rent more this year, it's still my house.
No, I understand.
The kitchen is shared, the common area is shared, I do the laundry. I mean, it has not changed. If anything, I take care of my home with such precision because I know it's going to be shared. These people are living in our space, and I think that may be the case, but it would be the exception that renting, if I rented year-round with Airbnb, these are not long-term renters. These are maybe single nights. The longest I think we've had is 10 days. If I rented year-round for them, it would still be an exchange of short-term guests in my personal space that I am allowing to come into. And so because I have to live there as well, it will never change. That environment is actually what draws people to me. If you want to go and look at my profile, you can. You can read my over 30 reviews and my 4.5 to 5 stars in both of my rooms, and you can see that they say she made me feel at home. That's the point.
I'm sure, I don't doubt.
And to restrict that to and I will be respectful, but to restrict that to 180 days, I think will be an unnecessary restriction that will limit the experience for guests and hosts.
All right, we don't totally agree on that, but again, I think we have to look at everybody. I'm not doubting anything you say or how you handle your property, but there's different people, so we're trying to find that middle ground, as we always do in these kind of legislation. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
I forget my question. Good afternoon. You mentioned how you service great referrals for restaurants, which is great. I'm interested in what formally or informally, what is it you do to talk up, promote arts and cultural offerings of the city?
Brochures. We stack a bunch of brochures. We have friends even, who have ideas of what are the different kinds of food that certain people might like from different countries and different cultures. I'm a big eater, maybe you could tell by looking at me, and and the entertainment in Philadelphia, we just love it. We hosted a couple people from joining the Roots concert, and oh my God, I mean, you wouldn't even know that they were there. I mean, we cannot just generalize and discriminate and say, well, certain kind of people are going to make certain kind of trouble. It's not true. It's just not true. We've had some terrific people, and they've enjoyed our help, even in shopping, because we even shop around the area, so we know what they can buy at the CVS and the corner stores, of which there are a few on Market Street in our neighborhood in Old City.
So I would imagine now that this industry will be regulated, the city may have a stronger or better handle on the numbers of bed and breakfasts in our area. And so the follow-up question is there an official or unofficial organization or association of bed and breakfasts?
Association,
Folks in the industry who live and breathe what you do.
If I could just interrupt, I think, Councilwoman, they're saying they're really not a bed and breakfast because they don't provide
food or alcohol.
Food or anything. So
is not
they're a little
provided.
different than, and that's why we're making it different.
But we're all associated through Airbnb, if that helps understand your question.
I
And-
wanted to, can I?
Yeah, go
also
ahead.
answer? I have like a multi-page guidebook that has like the top restaurants, like top by, what I've rated it, in my area, and then also like a whole list of shopping and like a little description under each one. And every single one of my guests like goes through the book, and they try to go to at least one or two places under the food and under the shopping too. And then I also have a book where they can leave a little note after their stay just to talk about their experience. And they always have like an additional suggestion that the next guest can read when they come.
Is this the first time you three are meeting as a result of this hearing?
Yeah.
So I would imagine there are other citizens similarly situated and doing what you do.
Yeah.
So here's a recommendation, it's food for thought, you do with it what you will. 10 years ago, I introduced a tour guide bill, and we met with concerns raised by a number of men and women in that industry. Ultimately, they organized, created an association to be helpful to each other with matters like this and others that are specific for the industry. So you may want to consider organizing for what that means for folks in your industry, since you share similar concerns, you can be helpful to each other and have a critical mass in the role that you play in the hospitality and tourism industry for the city.
Great. I think I understand what you were saying about an association a little bit better now. Airbnb has online forums for hosts to communicate and exchange ideas, and that's where a lot of the ideas are refined on how to be a better host, people's experiences, et cetera, so that you can build a community amongst each other to make sure that you have that support and what you're describing. It is extremely helpful.
Very well.
Ma'am, one more question. I respectfully disagree with you, Councilwoman. It is regulated. I already have a permit, so this is already regulated. And one other point to Chairman Greenlee is, yes, the customers will be paying the tax, and I understand that. But when you total up the total cost of a room, if it's pushing the edge of what what a hotel would charge, they might be disinclined from using Airbnb. We're just asking for not the full freight that the hotels pay in terms of taxes. And we do appreciate and love their contribution to the city and what they've done.
Yeah, like in any other bill, if it proves that this is causing some kind of hardship or problem, we can always take a look at it. I have to tell you, at this point, I want to go forward with how it is now. But we'll, if somehow it can be proven that somehow it is hurting the industry, the booking agent industry, we can take another look at it. I don't believe that will be the case, but we'll see. All right. Councilwoman, I just want to add one other thing. I think one of the things that makes this different, I think all three of these witnesses are staying in their property while the people are visiting. In a lot of cases, the person, say, leaves for the weekend, and somebody else stays at that property. So it's one of the things that makes it a difference than a bed and breakfast, where obviously the person is there to make the breakfast, okay? All right, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Who else? Anybody else? No? Yes? No? Yes? Go. And
Hi, good
I
morning.
would ask you, because we got another hearing coming up soon, so I would ask everybody to be brief.
My name is Darius Gooch. I'm also a host, but I think the other three hosts provided ample explanation for it. So I just wanted to reinforce the point that it's been a great experience. I'm actually a recent Philadelphia newcomer, and I moved here about 8 months ago and live in the Queen Village neighborhood. So it's a new neighborhood for me, and it's very exciting to share that with guests who come and stay with us. And to the point, I stay in the space along with the guests, and it's just a great way to recommend other places in the neighborhood, and then it gives me a chance to make ends meet, and then also explore other parts of Philadelphia. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great, thank you, sir. Yes,
Hi,
please,
my name is
identify
Susan
yourself.
Crofton, and I just wanted to mention that I'm a host, and I've also used it quite a bit, and typically I stay with artists or people with artistic sensibility. I use it to supplement my income because I work in the nonprofit sector in the arts, and that's typically not the highest economic area of our society. So I just want to mention, in terms of fairness, I don't know what the ramifications will be, but my experience is that people that are using this are people that wouldn't be coming here otherwise or couldn't afford a hotel. I have a lot of artists coming. I'm staying at places. I was just in Edinburgh with a woman who's a documentary filmmaker about jazz. So such a niche, right? And she said it saved her from poverty. So the only concern that I would have would be, what's the right level of tax? Are you going to start to prohibit people that are currently using this shared economy to come? So I know you're thinking about that too, but I just want to mention that.
And as I said, that's certainly, like any other bill, if we feel that there's unseen ramifications, we'll take another look at it. I think right now, I think the census go forward with how it's written now. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none. Thank you very much. No? Okay. Anyone else here to testify on 150441? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing of the Rules Committee. We'll now go into our public meeting. And let me state for the record, at the request of the sponsor, Bill number 150285 will be held in the committee meeting, for June 9th at 10 o'clock. That's in the committee meeting. The hearing has been completed on that bill. So with that, Chair recognizes Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the amendment to Bill 150264 be approved.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, the amendment is approved. Councilman Good.
I move that Bill 150264 as amended be reported out of this committee with a favorable recommendation, suspension of rules to allow first reading at our next council session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Bill number 150264 as amended is reported out of this committee favorably with a rule suspension. Before I recognize Councilman Good again, if I could ask everybody as you're leaving, we're still doing business here, and it's sometimes hard to hear in this place. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Councilman Good?
Move that Bill 150239 be reported out of this committee with a favorable recommendation. The rules of council be suspended so it's first read at our next council session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, 150239 is reported out of this committee favorably with a rule suspension. Councilman Good.
I move the amendment to Bill 140519 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, the amendment is approved. Councilman Good.
Move that Bill 140519 as amended be reported out of this committee with favorable recommendation. The rules of council be suspended so as first reading at our next council session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, Bill number 140519 as amended, reported out of this committee favorably with a rule suspension. Councilman Good.
Move the amendment to Bill 150355 be approved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the amendment is approved. Councilman Good.
I move Bill 150355 as amended be reported out of this committee with favorable recommendation and suspension of rules to allow first reading at our next council session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, 150355 as amended, reported out of this committee favorably with a rule suspension. Councilman Good.
I move the amendment to Bill 150441 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the amendment is approved. Councilman Good.
I move that Bill 150441 as amended be reported out of this committee with favorable recommendation. The rules suspensions allow first reading at our next council session.
Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, Bill number 150441 as amended is reported as committee favorably with a rule suspension. Before we adjourn today, on June 9th, we will have numerous bills that we're going to be considering. I would ask everybody, including the administration, to try to get us the testimony and any list of witnesses as quickly as possible so we're not going crazy on Monday afternoon, particularly Ms. Marconi, who is being driven crazy already. Okay? All right. With that, that concludes the today's meeting of the Rules Committee. Thank you very much.